Greetings. What's going on, family? Expanded Conscious family. How y'all doing out there? See who's in the room, who's getting set up. Make sure you guys like and share. I'm going to get this show on the road, get this thing started. Mr. Christopher, welcome. Good to have you in the room, sir. I hope you're doing all right. Yes. I see you, Instagram. Mother White, I see you over there. You in the room. I will tell you, Instagram, you're up. But if you really want a dynamic experience, it is a little bit different on YouTube and Facebook. So jump on there if you would like to comment and talk to the Expanded Conscious family. This is going to be wonderful, guys. There's yes, sir, Mr. Rubin, the Chicago area. Okay, out-of-body experience in his 20s. Okay. That's pretty interesting. Yeah, we talked about that. Most definitely, Miss Cynthia. Yes, you on a walk? Okay, you're going to enjoy it still. Yes, for sure. Good to have you in the room. Bishop. Good to see you. Hey, and I believe you're over the pond. Yes. Good to see you, Miss Holly. Oh, okay. Yes. No, Miss Lorraine, you are in New York. That's right. Most definitely. And Miss Stana, it's good to see you. Good to have you. We got so many of our people that I really want to see this. Of course, you don't have to have it live, but it's really nice that you get to interact when you're live. Good to have you, Miss Stana. Thank you so much for being in the room. You guys are amazing. Keep things rocking and rolling. Miss Deidre. Miss Smith is awesome. So awesome. I want to give it some time because I know that Miss Dolores, I know she wanted to be here. And we also have, I want to make sure Miss Parker is in the room. We're going to have some fun this evening. You guys can, if you have any questions, we're going to get to it. I'm going to play a video before we start. It's kind of more of a general video when it comes to NDEs. And if you have a chance, I'm not sure if you had a chance, but Mr. David Williamson has a few videos on YouTube, and I'll make sure I get those posted. If you're out there right now, I'm not sure if you're on Instagram, or if you're on YouTube or Facebook, but I see that there's people in the room. So make sure you comment. We like to see your comments, like and share. Yes. I see there's Miss Dorothy. All right. There's Miss Dorothy. Hey, it's good to have you. So, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of, in short, they call them NDEs, near-death experience. And not a lot of people have heard about these experiences. And just to be clear, people can have different experiences, but a lot of NDEs are official. What I mean by official, there's some research that has been done, and you can actually experience. The research has been done, but they can actually look at the brain waves, and they can look at things scientifically and see that this person had this experience, and there's some similarities. So we're going to watch a quick little video on Big Think. I like Big Think. It kind of explains things before we get into it, and then you guys can actually go back and you can watch the coming home video. Oh, cool. Thanks, Dave. Dave, Mr. Williamson just posted it. Frederick, I see you. I see you. Yes, yes. Awesome. So let's journey over here and watch this real quick.
Most near-death experiencers say that they have trouble speaking about it because there just aren't words to describe it, like trying to draw an odor with a crayon. Either the visions they saw, or the feelings they felt, or the entities they encountered, there just aren't words to describe them. A sense of connectedness to other people, to nature, to the universe, to the divine. And that changes how they see everything. It makes them much less invested in things of the physical world: power, prestige, fame, competition. Experiencers almost always say, this is the most important thing that's ever happened to me, and nothing else in my life compares to it. I'm Bruce Grayson. I'm a professor emeritus of psychiatry and neurobehavioral sciences, and I've recently come out with a book called After. The doctor explores what near-death experiences reveal about life and beyond. Near-death experiences are profound, subjective experiences that many people have when they come close to death, or sometimes when they are in fact pronounced dead. And they include such difficult-to-explain phenomena as a sense of leaving the physical body, reviewing one's entire life, encountering some other entities that aren't physically present that they sometimes interpret as deities or deceased loved ones. When they return, they often are profoundly changed by this experience. The most common change we hear from near-death experiencers is that they are no longer afraid of death. They describe having existed without their physical bodies, when their physical bodies were essentially dead, and yet they were feeling better than ever. Most near-death experiencers say they are more spiritual, but not more religious. They tend to look on organized religions as being simplifications of what the spiritual world really is. That what's important to them is the interconnections, not the dogma that goes along with it. And they think that the type of deity they encountered, if they did, is not as limited as the God they were taught about in church. It's much bigger than that, much more inclusive. It leads them eventually to the golden rule, which is actually part of every religion we have. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But they feel that this is not for them anymore a guideline we're supposed to follow, but a law of nature. The vast majority of near-death experiences that we hear are pleasant, if not outright blissful. That sounds like a wonderful thing to happen, but it can create a lot of problems in your life. I've talked to lots of people who were concerned that their loved one now is not the same person that they married. Lives were based previously on something that they thought they shared that they no longer shared. That can really disrupt the marriage. And there have been reports of a high rate of divorces among near-death experiencers. Furthermore, a lot of the families will say when a crisis happens, the experiencer may just take off and go see if they can help without concern of just leaving the family behind. So they often feel, why do you love other people as much as you love me? I'm your family, which is often very hard for the children of the near-death experiencers. One fellow I knew was a sergeant in the Marines in Vietnam and was shot in the chest. And during that operation, he had an elaborate near-death experience. When he came back from that, the idea of shooting someone else was totally unthinkable to him. He felt that he was no different from the people he was shooting at. And he had to eventually leave the Marines, which had been his lifelong goal to be a Marine, ended up coming back to the States and retraining as a medical technician. And I've heard this again and again and again from police officers and military officers who retrained in social work, medical care, clergy, teaching, and so forth. Being a psychiatrist, I've worked with people for about 50 years now. I know how difficult it is to help them make changes in their lives. And here you have an experience that takes place in a matter of seconds or a fraction of a second. that totally transforms their attitudes, values, and beliefs and behavior. People have thought about ways of trying to induce an NDE-like experience safely through guided meditation, hypnotherapy, psychedelic drug use, and these attempts have pretty much not been successful. And when I talk with near-death experiencers about this, they say that one of the most therapeutic things about the experience was the complete lack of control you have. So much of our lives is spent on trying to maintain control of our lives, which is tremendously anxiety-provoking. And in a near-death experience, no matter what happens to you, you are totally out of control. Something else is in control of what's happening to you. And yet, you feel better than ever. It often helps people deal with their anxieties, certainly their anxiety about death and dying, which often boils over into other areas of being anxious about other things in life as well. And when they come back, they realize you don't need to be in control all the time, and that giving up control, stop being so obsessional about being in control, makes life much more enjoyable for you. And it may help the rest of us in learning how to make our lives more meaningful and fulfilling.
Get smarter, faster with videos from the world's biggest thinkers. And to
Wow. So tell me, what do you think? I see the comments. I'm grateful for the comments. Please keep it rocking and rolling on YouTube. We have them rocking and rolling. Don't forget to, of course, get in the comments, like and share as we deep dive into this wonderful, wonderful story, right? Because ultimately, in the expanded conscious community, we understand more than normal people, of course. But anyways, let's go ahead and bring him on stage. Hey, brother.
Hey, hey, bro. How you doing, man?
My goodness.
Hello,
I'm
everyone.
doing good. It's good to have you. So good to have you, man.
Glad to be here. Yeah.
I to be, it's like I'm in this space in the sense of consciousness and expanded consciousness and spirituality, and how do we expand, or how do we let go, how do we reveal, all these various things because of my previous experience and a lot of people in the community's experience within, when it comes to spiritual ideas and spiritual things. And so, you came across my screen and it was like, oh my gosh, I gotta have him. And then, I mean, I'm gonna play a little bit of it just because your interview skills and hearing you talk. I mean, the way the way the video was set up was incredible. If you guys haven't heard it, I mean, I'm gonna play just a little bit of it just so that get just a little bit of it, because I want us to be able to have more of a conversation. Of course, you can go on here and you can see this, but I want to play just a little bit. There we go.
Pain said to me, heart. Nothing in that pain said heart. But I have 7 herniated discs, 2 torn, 2 bulging. So back pain was kind of a normal thing. So what I said to my friend is I looked at him and my eyes were big and I said, man, this back pain just shifted gears. I'm leaving work. I feel just like a tingle, like a sting. And I knew that this isn't right. So I'm sitting in my car and I'm like, is this something that's just gonna pass? Is this something, I just sit there for a moment and I find a level of kind of stability where it's like, I can tolerate this until I get home. Yeah. So I drove home, I get there, the fluttering and all of the stinging and all of that stuff is still happening. And now I'm feeling it in my heart. My son's mother, Trish, she's working from home. So I call up to her and I say, I think I need to go to the emergency room. This is not getting better, it's getting worse. Now, as we're in the car, I'm losing my breath. It just feels like I'm suffocating, I'm just losing my breath and I'm breathing really deep to try to stay conscious. We get to the emergency room, I'm kind of lightheaded, I'm walking up They get me on the gurney, and almost immediately I'm asleep. And I always try to make note of this fact because people say you're hallucinating, right? But I passed out before I went into the area where they were working on me. But I'm not dead, I don't think, because my perspective is on the bed, like I'm looking that way. But I'm not seeing anything but where the people were, there were dots that almost looked like a nighttime sky. And that stuff was clear to me in that state. But as far as explaining it to my conscious mind, and there's no way I could know why I understood what was happening in that moment. After I saw the blackness and the dots where the people were, my perspective shifted and I was above myself looking down. And I saw the whole setup of the room. I saw where the people were. They were still kind of positioned the way they were when they were pushing me in, but I was able to see, where everybody was at, including a woman that was in the corner of the room. She was holding her face like this, and she was really sad that I was dying. And that was initially when I left my body, that was one of the things that disturbed me the most. It was like, what in the world is she sad for? This is so beautiful. This is so perfect. I'm not hurting no. I'm not confused. That guy is dead, but I'm alive. This is beautiful, So to me, that just clarifies that it's not a hallucination. I learned while I was out of my body. I saw in real time what was happening to me. And everything, when I opened my eyes, continued in real time. There was no separation in my awareness, gap in between what I was experiencing, whether I was in the body or out of the body. It was a continual flow of experience. And once I did leave my body and I looked down, there was a lot of things that I came to understand. Like, he's dead. His body's dead. The mind is dead. The ego's dead. And after that kind of series of kind of realizations, it was like, well, then what's left? Like, what am I? And the words flooded in very clearly. It was audible. These words were light, energy, soul, spirit, awareness. It's just a flood of words. They weren't in a line like a mechanical. It was like a bunch of voices just said these words. But it felt like it was me explaining this to myself. Everything was energy. Everything felt like love. And I felt like a part of that whole thing. I didn't feel separate from it at all. And everything that I looked at, every question I had, the clarity was instantaneous. And in that process, I was clear. Like I was, what's that? What's that? What's that? It was like a baby having everything was an moment. And I moved from one thing to the next with that childlike wonder and amazement at what I was seeing. There was no memory of this human experience that I was referring any of it back. There was no mind like that. It was just a awareness that was beholding these things and integrating them and like instantly. So I'm watching everything. I'm watching the woman that's holding her face and just sad about me dying. And after a while, I'm paying attention to stuff, and I just kind of casually take my attention up. And when I do that, instantly I'm in space.
Woo! I just had to give them just a taste of that experience. I'm a video person, so it was the way they cut and edited it. But so we know where we're going to pick up at. We're going to pick up back there. But what I want to let people know is talk about who you were and what led to this.
Well, what's funny is that since I've started sharing this story, I remember drowning at age 6, but I didn't integrate it as a trauma, so the memory was kind of faint. So toward the end of last year, I called my brother and I asked him, did I drown? Like, were you there when I drowned at the summer camp? And he was, yeah, I was right there on the dock. And I asked him, so how long was I under the water? And he said no less than 3 or 4 minutes. And that was significant to me because I used to time how long I could hold my breath when I took baths. And I never could get to 2 minutes. And that was always the goal. And I never could get to 2 minutes. And so I knew that, what happened to me when I was under the water probably wasn't my first near-death experience. But when I went under the water, well, I was watching the kids swimming in the water at the camp, and I didn't know how to swim. I saw that they all had life jackets on, so my assumption was they don't know how to swim either. They just got these life jackets on, so they're comfortable, you know. So I put a life jacket on, and I just jumped like high into the water, and as soon as I hit the water, the life jacket stayed at the top, and I just went straight down. And as I'm going down, I begin. I mean, it's just a lot of thinking. As I got, I can hold my breath for a while, but it gets to a point where I was like, I know I'm not going to be able to hold my breath for much longer, but I'm really calm. Like I'm thinking, like really thinking through this, and um, and then a voice says, it's black. It's blackness at this point. I think it's me passing out, but the voice said, if you can touch the bottom, you can just push yourself back up. And I responded to the voice, and it was really calm. And so it, like I said, it made me feel very relaxed in the whole experience. I responded that I'm just going down. It doesn't seem like I'm going to touch the bottom. And as soon as I said that, I started floating back up. And as I'm floating back up, at some point it's still blackness, but at some point I look up and I could see the sun rays coming through the top of the water. And I'm still looking at this because it's beautiful. And then I see a splash at the top of the water, and the ripples from that splash, they just totally hold my attention. The circles radiating and creating bigger and bigger and bigger circles that are growing, which became something that returned back to me my awareness later in my life. But it was something that stuck into my memory. To seeing that ripple with the sunlight coming through those ripples, it was an important symbol for for my next experiences, spiritual experience. So but that seemed to put me on a path towards depression and disconnection from this reality. And I was already very spiritual. I was already having lucid dreams and sleep paralysis and knowing things I wasn't supposed to know. That's what I always called it when I was a kid. I just knew things I wasn't supposed to know, and which oftentimes were people's thoughts, and whether no one just knowing that they were lying, when they were talking, you know, and yeah, just a lot of and memories of previous experiences that I just took as dreams, but they were recurring dreams that happened the exact same way over and over and over and over and over. But after my more recent NDE, it was just clear that these are memories, and from previous experiences, because it became more clear. And but that experience, and we moved to Germany after my father was in the military. Moved to Germany after that summer camp, and I started having these fits where I would go back into like I was there in Hiroshima and Nagasaki when the nuclear bombs were exploding, and during during the nuclear holocaust, and it was horrible. And my mother described it to me recently. She said my body would be stiff and I would just be shaking and screaming over and over and over, I don't want to die, I don't want to die, I don't want to die. And she said my heart would be pounding out of my chest, and she was not able to console me in any way until it just stopped, until I stopped doing it. And I also was having visions of the future, which was here in America, because we were living in Germany at the time, and it was what I called as a child human roadkill, you know. And and I was in the car. I would be in cars, or I'd be with people, or I would just be moving around, and I would see these bodies, human bodies, on the side of the
Mm.
road. And people would be talking about the weather or listening to the music and singing the songs as if these bodies weren't there. So it's like they had gotten used to seeing human roadkill, and it really disturbed me, as a kid. And then growing up in North Carolina in a small town called Yanceyville, I saw the KKK march, up and down the street multiple times as a child. So it was just a lot of variables that kind of shaped a lot of extreme emotional feelings about this human experience and about race and about hate and and just a more tribal orientation, towards this human experience, that it was kind of automatic growing up with the circumstances and the type of fears and anxieties that I had about the future, as a child even.
So growing up in North Carolina, fast forward, so you've probably have you ever had a chance in your life to express like these? Tell me something. How did you grow up spiritually or religiously?
Well, Christianity was, we were Baptists, so my mother used to make us go to church for a while, and then we would start. Me and my brother, she had us in the choir, and after we started embarrassing her, that's when she stopped making us, do different things, because we would supposed to be singing the songs, but we never tried to even learn the songs. So when it would be time for us to go up on, and do our performance or whatever, we would just be, our head would just be to the side, and we had this dead look on our face, and we'd just be moving our mouths like, and then we embarrassed her doing that a couple times, and she didn't make us go anymore. Didn't make us at least be in the choir anymore, because that wasn't. She didn't want to deal with that foolishness. Yeah. But
Well, I mean, I get it. Yeah.
but my orientation was definitely Christian. As I grew up, I wanted to be the best Christian that I could be. I was very spiritual as a kid. I got my mother to give me books. Those they were supposed to be 1 cent books. You get 5 for 5 cents, but it turned out to be $30, and I thought they were 5 cents, so I didn't think I was asking for much. But my mother knew that there was all these shipping and processing fees that made it still turn out to be a pretty high amount. But every time I saw those ads in the magazine, and I would pick five books, and my mom would get them for me, regardless of what was going on. So, um, and most of the time, even at age 6 and 7 years old, the books that I got, and one of the first that I remember getting in one of those from those magazines was the Secret Teachings of Jesus Christ, and he was with 5 Gnostic Gospels. And I remember asking, like, why are these not in the Bible? And because I was trying to be a super Christian, and I thought that this information was good information, and so I was like, why is this not in the Bible? And the explanations that I got for all my questions, I just never felt were adequate. So I would just ask, a lot of different questions. My father was my uncle was a deacon at the time, and
Mm.
he's a minister now. And I would ask him a lot of questions. My mom would always ask me when I would come home, like, "Are you got your questions answered?" And I was like, "No, not really, but I'll figure it out." And she helped me. Like, she nurtured the um, the inquisitiveness. Like, if I had questions and I wanted a book, she made sure that I could get the book. She got us encyclopedias. Um, we always had books, and it made me I just learned a lot. I just learned a lot always. And then when the internet came, I was a voracious. Yeah, I printed out. I still have papers everywhere from the early days of the internet, where I just printed out articles and printed out books and stuff that I
Wow.
found. Like, so I was just information was important to me, even if I didn't have any intention of reading it in the moment. I always said that when I get old, I'm going to sit down somewhere and I'm going to read all my information that I gather up. So I have like 4 or 5 thousand books, and I've read a lot of them. I read in a lot of them, but I haven't read nearly, probably not even half of them. And but I use them as resources. It's like having a library in my house. When I want to know something, I can go generally find a book that's related, especially if it's spiritual topics or something related to different cultures, anthropology, even quantum physics, theoretical physics. I have a lot of books on that. But spiritual stuff is just the bulk of it. And so my interests always were really vast. And because of my memories of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I had an interest in science, and I wanted to understand why they chose uranium over thorium. And I remember really doing research and when I was a teenager about why they chose chose uranium over thorium, because thorium was just a less volatile, element, and I thought that it would be a better or better it's a better approach to nuclear energy, and it has a shorter half-life, to where it's not dangerous, and as dangerous as uranium to deal with the waste of it. So I don't know, I just I had all of these concerns. I had theories on how black holes work when I was about 18, 19. That 9 years later, NASA wrote an article that pretty much confirmed the things that I was saying about them, because I drew a picture to try to illustrate how black holes work. And what's funny is that uh, Terrence Howard was talking about the flower of life, and the picture that I have, if I were to have kept drawing the black holes and the smaller, and if I would include the dense, less smaller and bigger black holes, it would have looked like a flower of life. Because my theory at 19 was that black holes can't be random; they have to interact with each other, and they have to have a function in the universe that is clear and obvious. And and that pretty much, NASA was saying that they like the wheels of creation. They churn the space and clean and condition space to allow for the different creation cycles to occur, different cycles in space to occur, or different events that happen in space to continue, I guess, processes. But I also imagined it to be like because of the nature of black holes and how they interact with each other. I imagined that it was what created a pulsation in the cosmos, that it's like a constant expansion, but it looks like a pulsation, but it's a contraction and an expansion, but with each contraction, after each contraction, is a little bit bigger than it was before. And my theory, I didn't know any math or I didn't have any other reason to think this, but I thought that black holes and how they function in the universe was the underlying cause of that pulsation and that growth and expansion.
So briefly tell me, like, before, because it's interesting because you had a lot going on within you, and you've had a lot of going on, spiritually within you, and investigating. What do you think led to the pressure that you had in your life? Of course, there was hate from the experience, whatever led to that experience. But like, what do you think led to that point? Where did you just not realize that what you were doing was going to lead to the illness?
I mean, it's almost like these are like archetypes or uh, um, thought patterns that exist here, like the suffering savior or the hero, or it was something. My I'm from a small town, like I said. The county is Caswell County, which is still one of the poorest counties in this country. And so I saw a lot of people who suffered literally and in their own minds, in terms of just how they felt about themselves, how they felt about their lives, and I integrated all of this stuff. I absorbed all of these feelings, all of these emotions, because I've always been deeply empathic, and I didn't understand the gift of empathy until after my NDE, because as a child, I prayed at age 6 to have all of my gifts taken from me, because they just were torture to me. But for me, what led to the bulk of the anger is just seeing the suffering, seeing disparity, and also being a victim of news, not narratives, and how they very intentionally seem to polarize opinions on everything that's presented, especially if it's crime or violence related along racial lines. And I was a victim of that. Every single time I saw a police officer kill a black person, it infuriated me, and it was just difficult for me to carry all of that anger every time, all the time. But at the same time, I seem to be fixated on it. If you go through my history on social media, that's all I posted for years was angry, posts about police killing people, black people. At one point, I did start including white people, because I was always trying to get towards a rational or more grounded understanding of reality, but and I also wanted white people to understand that this militarization of the police is dangerous for everybody. But I was posting all of this stuff in a triggered state, um, and it kept me triggered, because it just angered every single one. It was almost like reopening a scar that was old, in me. I never really was able to downregulate my nervous system. I stayed angry. I went to work after I had digestive issues for years, but after my gallbladder had to be removed, I would take my blood pressure when I went to work, and it would be normal when I was at home. And as soon as I got to work, my blood pressure would shoot to sometimes 240 over like 160 as soon as I sat down. And it was just me. I told myself this story that I was this hero that was going to fix all of the issues that Black people face, and that every white person, regardless of their who they are in reality, teachers, nurses, just regular people, the bus driver, whoever, they were all somehow complicit in this uh, creating this oppressive reality for me. And the poverty didn't help. Like seeing people that in my hometown suffering, and even there was a documentary about how people from my area, their homes are getting taken by these scams because they're just offering them things, and people are so poor that they just say yes, and they end up losing their home in these little scams that they're saying they're going to beautify it. They're going to fix the home, and then you're going to come back. But they fix the home, sell the home, and then you're stuck wherever they put you in, and probably have a new mortgage or some new bills. I don't know. But they did a documentary about this because we just are still pretty old fashioned people with good hearts that don't assume bad about people, even though there's a lot of trauma. So it's a there's a lot of people being preyed on, in those types of environments. So for me, it's like my attention stayed no matter where. My father was in the army. I went to college, but no matter where, how much education I received, or no matter how, if I got a good job or whatever, my awareness never left, where I came from, which was extreme poverty and disparity, and people suffering in ways that I just hated, and I wanted to somehow fix all of these problems. And I felt for some reason that it was my responsibility to do so. And all it did was intensify my anger, intensify the rage in me, but also intensify this sense of responsibility, even though the rage, the anger kept me too confused really to ever do anything. You
Mm,
know, you know. So
mm,
that's the conundrum in that, is that if you stay in this triggered state, you're not even operating out of executive functioning. So you are still imagining all of these things, that ways that your people are suffering, but you're so broken. I was so broken that there really wasn't nothing I was going to be able to do but just sit and throw rocks, from the sidelines, and never really participate at all, outside of just being extremely angry that we're suffering in this,
yeah, tr- you
Yeah.
you've mentioned trauma, you mentioned triggered. Those are some psychology terms that I don't think the average person gets a chance to even. You hear the term, but not know that those are psychology terms. But of course, the trauma being triggered led to this moment and point in your life where, and of course, you probably didn't know you were dying,
No, I didn't. Yeah.
and but it led to that moment and point. What would you say? Of course, we have the story about what you experience. You get there, you start experiencing. Tell us a little bit about how you felt while you were there. And you probably still feel that now when it comes to individual people and who we are, who we are in terms of like who it's like who can you almost just guarantee, like no matter who it is, coming from this trigger state, especially seeing the KKK and seeing how the oppression, and then all of a sudden you go and you're in this space, and what was revealed in the sense of like about human beings.
The biggest thing to me, that the biggest knowing that I return with, is that this is a system that is unique. Even if there are other possibilities of there being life out there, this is a confirmed place where this life exists in this way. And it's sacred, and the system in and of itself is sacred. And the fact that life does exist, life that's sentient and able to know that it's existing, know that it's having a good or a bad experience, able to share this knowing, document it, and leave it for generations so that they could have good experiences here and know that good experiences are possible here. And we still seem to, with the novelty of life in itself in the cosmos, um, be fumbling the ball. Like we're arguing over ideas that are really just a gift of life. You know, Life allowed us to speak. Life allowed us to create language. Life allowed us to imagine how we got here. Life allowed us to tell stories about how we got here. And now we have the gall to take those stories that we have been gifted with the ability to create and kill other life. with them, because of them. And for me, it just now that I value life in this way, considering that we are all one life, seeing us behaving the way that I've experienced myself behaving and experienced others behaving, it just hurts to see it, because no matter how justified we are in our anger, in order to fix our problems, we have to flatten our nervous system and consider them rationally and try to solve them. But to just stay in this triggered state where there is no solutions that can even be generated from that state, it's a triggering and invoking state. And I triggered the people that I called myself being the hero, the savior for, by just constantly coming around with this intense energy and trying to almost force them into the triggered state that I was in. Um, and it's not healthy. It's not healthy for my. It wasn't healthy for my nervous system, and it seemed like I wanted other people to feel it so that perhaps they could, maybe they would motivate me into some kind of action if I could get somebody else triggered. I don't know, but it's a contagious kind of thing that you kind of feel when like you want something to happen so bad, you want some change to happen so bad, but you don't feel you have agency. You've been affected by the oppressive ideology, so you feel worthless, you feel useless. I feel that none of the opinions that I have about anything, including thorium, including black holes, will ever matter in this life. So I've already felt that way. So it's like I didn't have any real gumption, I think, to just do anything, even though I had a lot of violent ideation. Um, I was rational about the reality that uh, you ain't gonna beat the military
Yeah.
or the police and fighting on this soil in any kind of way. It's like I understood that, but I still was thinking about rallying up a group of people who thought like me, and just to target specific people and maybe get them out of the way, and maybe that would change some policy. It was just a lot of uh, I mean, I would even outright, I'm comfortable with saying that I lost my mind, um because for me it was like death was a fighting and killing, and those were thoughts. But I didn't do anything. So and I don't necessarily think it was because I wasn't willing to. I think it was because I wasn't in a state to where I could even come up with a plan to do anything. I wasn't even accessing executive functioning. So it was just a cycle of feeling and feeling and feeling and feeling that
Oh, wow.
that ultimately burned out organs and burned out my thinking and my and led to my death. So
You said feeling and then you said thoughts. Like, now that you have experienced that, how important are thoughts, and the thoughts that we don't know that we're even thinking unless we can experience those? But like, how important are the thoughts now that you can say, because you are going through that and experiencing it? But then when you have your NDE, now it's almost like, you almost get like a life review, if you will?
yeah, well, my life review was like maybe 10 seconds, if that long, and it more so focused on the way that I made other people feel in very specific moments, and I kind of felt it, and a lot of it centered around agreements that I made with people, that I didn't honor, and how they feel and how they felt, and it makes me want to honor those agreements, and so I do think about a lot, just trying to honor agreements, moving forward, and also understanding if I've spread myself too thin to not make agreements that I can't honor, because it's bigger to me now that if I say I'm going to do something, I got to do it. That I have to also have boundaries to where I don't spread myself so thin to where I can't actually honor any agreements. So um, it just made me more mindful of the things that I agree to, and um, and just spreading my energy too thin, like spreading my attention too thin to where I can't do anything with my attention because it's here, there, and everywhere, and not focus on any things that I want to have happen in my reality and my experience here. So
You mentioned something too, and you said you heard of when you ask a question, but that question came back and you felt of course you heard it, but it came back to you, but it came back to you as you.
Yeah, even when I think back to my drowning at age 6, the voice that said, if you could touch the bottom, you can just push yourself back up. It sounds like my voice now, and what I remember, it sounds like my voice now, and and the voice that I heard when I was out of my body and during my NDE at 40, it sounded like my voice, like the words when I heard the voice, the words, soul, consciousness, awareness, spirit, all at the same time. It sounded like my voice, and so I do think, I mean, but I do think these experiences also are kind of tailor made to who we are, to the identity that we define, ourselves as, and the lenses that we've created that filters our experience through. So, and if we didn't detach from those lenses, then those lenses become necessary for us as we leave this place to detach, from the those understandings, those uh, biases, those orientations that are based on a human experience that does not matter when you leave here because you're not a human anymore. What I was an orb of light, and I don't think it really held trauma in memory the way it didn't hold trauma in memory the way that my body did. And so I and at one point there was no more memory of my human experience. But if there was a thought that had emerged that even the idea of missing someone, it couldn't exist in that state, because if that thought emerged, the satisfaction of them being present would have already been felt, and that's how every other thought of if there was any kind of tension, you know, um, that would instantly go away. It's at one point when I was staring into the void, but at another point, like anything that's around me that I was trying to that I was amazed by, because I just did a lot of and moving through space. But every time I said the whatever the implied in terms of like what's that, or oh, that's beautiful, um, it was instant clarity, instant the distance between me and the thing disappeared. I think I was just shooting around space, and just learning and expanding also, because it seemed as though I remained aware of every place that I covered. Every bit of the space that I covered, I remained connected to and aware of it. So it seems like I was learning and expanding as I was moving through space, and um, it was beautiful. And traveling is all I wanted to do, because I mean, in the video I shared that I saw the light. The light looked like a star. I seemed like I was a star, or I couldn't tell the difference of size between me and the light, because the light was extremely far away from me, but it had a strong gravitational pull to where if I did not intend to move anywhere, if I just sat still, I would float in that direction towards the light, slowly. So I felt a drawn to it. It didn't feel threatening, but I did not want to. I didn't. I just wanted to travel, and I did have an assumption that that I would just have another experience if I went to the light. And I didn't want to have another experience of any type. I just wanted to continue enjoying what I was experiencing, which felt perfect and beautiful. So, mhm.
Would you say that was God?
the the way that I define it now is that that entire realm, which includes this realm, all of it is God, and it includes us. And so it just feels like you get a glimpse of of what it feels like to not be in a body, and to not have boundaries, and not have limits to your knowledge, not have limits to your ability to move through this through this realm, and understand it, at its purity. And it's just, for me now, when I look at how life comes and go, how light becomes matter and form, and how we emerge from the void, and then have these experiences, then it all is perfect to me. Now what we do here with this perfect system that allows soul to become flesh, you know, what we do here, that's on us. If we want to fight over ideas that this experience granted us the gift of creating and imagining and sharing, if we want to kill each other over that gift, then that's on us. That's what we decide to do. But the oldest stories that we told each other, it didn't inspire war. It just shared, it shared history. It shared our mistakes, and it gave us lessons on how to learn from those mistakes, on how to take paths different than the ones that our ancestors made that led to those mistakes. But it wasn't about reading scripts. Our ancestors didn't share these stories with us to tell us to go do the exact same thing we did. That's not what they are sharing these histories for. They're sharing these stories for us to learn from them, and not repeat their mistakes. And I think sometimes, I don't know, it seems like contemporary humans, we don't view ourselves sacred the way that we view the people in those books. You know, we view those people in those books as sacred. They can say, what's important for humanity 7,000 years ago, and we think that's what's important for humanity now. But we don't view ourselves as sacred enough to be able to define what's important for humanity for ourselves now, using the knowledge that our ancestors left us. So it's not about ignoring what they say. It's about taking what they left us, the breadcrumbs that they've given us, and actually really trying to ground a deeper understanding of this reality, which is expressed differently than how they did it than the way we communicate now, because they didn't have the same orientation, and their ideas um, were rooted to symbols that scaled up and scaled down. These symbols were based in this reality, and they were consistent with physics, laws of physics. They were consistent with astronomical relationships between stars, and that had implications on all kinds of things, throughout the cosmos. And it was a scaling up, scaling down type of attempt at analogical is how it should be defined. Like, it was an analogical way of looking at life that allowed them to take an idea that's rooted in reality and scale it up to an idea that's still rooted in reality, but perhaps another reality. But the principles don't stop being consistent. The laws of how things work are the laws of how things work. Whether you're in this realm or in another realm, those laws have a consistency. And it's not the exact same, but there's a scaling of it that has a relationship. There's a relationship between it. And we have to just remember. And I think that that's what's happening organically now, as we are, we move through this cosmos, and we get closer and further away from different bodies in space, and they have different influences on us. But we're moving we're in a space now where there's going to be more light. There's going to be more awakenings. There's going to be more knowledge, and people are going to have more of these experiences, and people are going to come back with very specific messages, and more tombs in Egypt are going to get opened, and their
Mm. So,
implications there too.
mm. So you said so many beautiful things when it comes to sacredness and the things that we think that are sacred and we do that are sacred. And it's really part of systems and structures. Um, what would you say is just the word in terms of moving forward? What do you
Uh,
see? What do you feel? Like, a lot of people in this in this community understand we've been spiritual people, but we had a lot of religious constructs. But also there's been and we look to share, right? We look to grow, we look to expand, and we look to be community. And so, you know, you could just be yourself and free for all, man, and just allow yourself to explore in terms of your if you can't mess up within this community as far as like what you share, you know.
yeah.
But because I've had some conversations with you and it's been so beautiful. And so, you know, you coming from where you were and not doing anything when it comes to, let's say, race issues or when it comes to life issues, but yet though looking at our era and our time as a sacred, yet and still a sick internet is acting silly, expanding this consciousness or expanding ourselves. And so I remember just when, just feeling so refreshed of, when you start talking about us being light, and of course, getting through our traumas, understanding that our triggers, understanding our feelings and how important our thoughts are. Um, I believe that I can have a conversation with you and get closer to the God self, the expansion of consciousness, right? Because you've experienced something that has been life altering, that not everyone gets to. But I remember we were having a conversation and we were talking about different experiences, and people can do ayahuasca and do all these things. But you said, so what are you going to do with those experiences? Like, it's like you experience it. What are you going to do with those
Yeah.
experiences?
Yeah, that for me, and that's even with NDEs to me, it's not about the experience and the mystical mystical stuff, that you see, and the way that you seem to look at reality different, and it feels good. It feels good, but I think it's if I don't if no matter what I say about myself, I can say I'm one with the universe, and I'm a guru, and I know these things that others don't know. I could say that all day, but if the rubber never meets the road, if nothing that I say ever has any action, if there's no habits, if there's nothing that somebody that has known me can't see in me and say, "Oh, there is a difference there," then the experience means nothing. If there is no change, if there's no pivot, if there is no just real shift in how you live here and how you treat other human beings. It doesn't you don't have to become some public speaker. You don't have to do this type of interview stuff because it's not very comfortable for a person who's deeply empathic to do these things. But I have to. It seems more like a responsibility now than it is a desire. But it's a state that you get to where you just see this place as sacred, and you cannot see anything else. I can't if I know that there's something inside of every being on this planet that leaves here and it's perfect and it's unaffected by this, then there's no way that I can look at their human experience and say, that thing, even that thing that's unaffected by this sucks. It's horrible. I can hate it. No, I view you as perfect, and your experience might have sucked. And it might have made the body, mind, ego that you happen to embody or happen to experience through. Um, it might have made created tension. It might have created pain. It might have created horrible, connections between memories and ideas. And it made your ability to see reality for what it is difficult. And this is real. I've experienced this. I did not see reality for what it was. I hated everyone and everything in it. And if and when I came back, the attachment to these ideas didn't exist anymore. I still behaved in some of the same ways because I behaved those ways for 30, 40 years on this planet, you know. But when I realized that I didn't have an internal trigger, I wasn't having a nervous system response. I was actually just behaving out of habit. Um, even the problems themselves became less of an issue. It became how do we fix it? How do we fix it? Um, Not I'm so angry that this problem exists and I want to find a finger to point at who creates it. It really became how do I fix it? And I can have fun fixing problems. I can be happy fixing problems. I can get dopamine rewards fixing problems. You know, I can put my body in a state that's always happy just because I create goals in this problematic world, you know, that make me feel good versus focusing on problems that make me feel bad and generate negative chemicals in my body. So for me, even if it's out of sense of duty, even if I still have this egomaniacal notion that I'm some hero savior, my body has to be in a state that allows me to do that. Uh, the way that I was, the anger that I felt, the rage that I felt, destroyed my nervous system. It destroyed my digestive system, and it ultimately tore my heart valve, which was defective from birth. So it was already the perfect storm, and I just read the right script. I read the right script for my heart valve to do it for the plot, and then the plot unfolded, and the experience allowed me to reset, and now I have the opportunity to do something here different than what I did before. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be anything. I don't have to say that. I don't even have to speak to David was horrible and he was wrong. David lived a life a certain way that led to a conclusion that was very predictable, based upon how extreme his passions and emotions were towards everything here. That I didn't give myself agency or access to the rationale or logic to solve or fix or address. So now it's more like, yes, these same things exist here, but I'm going to keep my body, mind, ego in a state to where I actually might be able to do something about it, or at least put maximize my experience here for whatever time I have left. Maybe even accumulate some resources, and instead of throwing emotions at problems, actually throw some money at some problems. You know, I
Mhm.
want I want to fix things. I don't want to die with $1 billion in the bank. I want to fix things here. I want to fix things, and if the way that we seem to do it, if money is the energy that powers change, then just let it come so I can fix things. I don't really want to pile it up. I just want to fix things. You know.
Yeah. We've had we
Yeah.
talked about the oligarchy in America and just
Yeah.
how we go through so many things trying to fight versus playing the system, but with the system, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
doing what we need to do.
I
Um,
don't have to hate this system to understand that it's ineffective and it's broken. But they've been telling us since the early 2000s that it's in Stanford studies. I think there's another study that this is an oligarchy. Corporations purchase policy. Our votes are symbolic. Our participation is symbolic. You know, corporations purchase all of the policy that affects our day-to-day living here. And if we don't, we can sit on the sideline and say, okay, I'm doing my civic duty by voting, or we can say, or we can actually get involved and actually try to purchase policy that makes life easy for human beings here on this country.
yeah,
And I mean, and it doesn't sound or feel good to say that in order for me to have peace or in my community, I have to buy it. Doesn't feel good, you know. But if that's the system that we are agreeing to exist in and not being mad enough to change it, you know, or not having to, or not moving in a direction where we change it, or not infusing it with ideas that make it change, then let's do it the way that it's set up to do it. But we can still break it because this system relies upon othering people. But if we get out of these triggered states, you don't have fear and anxiety. If you don't have fear and anxiety, it's impossible to other somebody because you see them as you. You see them as the same as you. But as soon as you have an inkling, a story that tells you that there's another out there, then fear and anxiety emerges in your body, and your nervous system is wired to make you feel comfortable. And in feeling comfortable, all of the stories that we tell ourselves about others, the boogeymen that are out there, that's just to allow us to have some level of functionality within a system that we've almost uh, invented the chaos in. We've invented the villains in. So you still got to function in that make believe world that you've created with all these boogeyman and wizards and warriors and dragons and evil people. You got to function in that. So the story has to help you. The story that you tell yourself or that you agree to has to allow you to flatten your nervous system, even with those untethered beliefs, residing in you. You still have to be able to flatten. So the explanations that we give ourselves are the ideologies, the religions, but they ignore reality, and they even ignore their origin, which was about truly flattening our nervous system, not creating anxiety and fear in us, not othering people. It wasn't. That's not the intention of these stories. These stories even integrated with, like I said, laws of physics, the way the brain works, the buildings that they were etched in the walls and are even associated with the nervous system, how the brain works. They understood how the stories affected our body, mind, ego. It affected our ability to connect with others. So when the stories became trauma narratives, it detached them from that. It detached them from that, and that's where ideology comes from. That's where centric storytelling starts. That I am that the good of these stories only applies to us, and everybody outside of our circle, they're the evil ones. They're demons. They're this, that, and the other. They're the people who persecuted us or oppressed us or whatever. However the story goes, but the reality of it is that we've been using this our storytelling capacity to other people for probably 10,000 years or more. So it's not a matter of who started it or who does it the best. Is let's just stop. Let's do something else here.
Mm.
It's a beautiful opportunity to create heaven on earth here, you know. But we want to fight over ideas that we've been gifted the opportunity to make up, to invent. Reality doesn't care how many words we wrap around it. It is what it is, and it's going to do what it does. It has been doing it long before we emerged here. So to kill people over ideas that we Johnny come latelys invented here on this planet, it doesn't even make sense to compromise life over ideas that we who are late in the life game, you know, um, come across or make up, and to think that it's those ideas are more sacred than other life. None of it makes sense to me anymore, and there is no rationale for me. There is no because even like even the I read a lot of the comments, and it's because it's important to. I'm not trying to avoid negative interactions with human beings because I feel like I'm somehow happy, and I've never been happy. I still reality is still reality, and I still feel what people feel. So I try to explain things to people who misunderstand me in the exact same way I misunderstood people who were saying similar things when I was young and angry. Oh, you happy? Oh, you a sellout? I didn't trust happiness. I thought happy people were the fakest people on this planet when I was angry. Because what are you happy for? Everything here hurts me. Everything here hurts me and angers me. How can you be happy? And so for me, I get when somebody says to me, "How is he talking this one love, all this, we all the same stuff?" When people suffer, um, we make people suffer. They're not demons and some magical forces of nature that's making people suffer. It's us and our silly, eccentric ideas that lead to the suffering. So if we don't want people to suffer, let's stop playing the suffering game and stop pointing fingers at each other, because all that does is lead to more suffering and accusing. And, but the violence that humans have been doing to each other, uh, even in populations that were homogenous, has been extreme for thousands of years. Nobody invented this. Nobody is the masters of this. We've been killing each other over ideas for a very long time, and it's time to do something else here. You know,
Hmm. I can. Man, it's. I can ask. I can keep going, but I'm.
I'm cool. I'm cool. I like.
Mm,
I'm cool. I'm cool. I'm open for questions. I'm open
yeah.
for whatever.
Well,
I'm
I
cool.
got some questions here. Well, because I'll keep going and not. I want to let these other questions go because there's so many little things. The coach side of me comes out, and and I see things in story, and then that leads to another. That story is like I want to double click and go deeper into that. What you just said, you talking about suffering, and we look at slavery. We look at what's happening in the earth on the world today, and that suffering and the evil that happens can actually, we have to learn to let some of that go. But we can, if you could see, can you see some of these questions here?
I'm typing a response. Well,
No, yeah, if you want, you can talk
yeah.
about it. I could post them up on here. Which one you want to look at? Like, because I could post it and then you could talk about it. I'll post it on the uh post the question up on the screen, and then that way everyone can, because we got YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and then that way everyone gets to hear it.
Okay. Well, he was quoting, and he said eccentric ideas that lead
Oh, okay,
to,
that was late.
and
Okay.
I know I'm country, and I might slur some words together, but it's I was what I but what I was saying was centric like like circle, like and tribal even. It's
Yeah.
tribal ideas, and because what we know is that a person that is killing over religion is doing so out of a sense of responsibility and connectedness to the people who share that religion with them. These are ideas that even universally are beautiful ideas, but if you can only apply them to your group, then you're not getting it, you know. And so sometimes the tribal stuff it just presents you the same way as having children or having a lover. It presents you with the opportunity to experience love in its pureness. These are analogies of larger experiences of love or larger principles in the universe. The opportunity that we have to just talk to each other or to just interact with each other. These are larger expressions of how the universe works, integration versus entropy, organization, versus entropy rather. Um, and these forces are at a dance and a constant dance always, but how it looks doesn't have to be ugly. The dance doesn't have to be crump dancing. We could slow dance. You know what I'm saying? We can do some elegant stuff from some countries that I can't do that stuff, but it looks good. We can do those kinds of dances. We don't have to be attacking each other with the dancing. We don't have to be mosh pitting, and that's what we're doing here. The energies that reside in us reside in the universe, and sometimes the universe shows us fireworks. It's beautiful. Fireworks are beautiful. We don't have to. It doesn't. The analog of that on this planet doesn't have to mean war. you know, because it is going to be the same here above, same, above, as below, same as,
Yeah.
as above, so below. So that is it in existence, but how it manifests is up to us. How these, because we talk about these things as laws. People are into the Kabbalion and the principles, hermetic principles. Anytime we talk about words that we invent as if they are infallible or perfect or laws, we are losing agency. There is no book that's going to tell us how to live here. Our experience is telling us how to live here. Our falling, getting up, and pivoting. That's what's showing us how to live here. There's no books. These books that our ancestors leave us give us breadcrumbs. The efforts that the Egyptians, the Greeks made to try to teach us virtues, good habits, principles. Like the laws of Ma'at. The Greeks had an equivalent. Like these things, those are the gifts that are infinite, because those gifts outside of religious orientations or outside of ideologies inform how you should treat other human beings. And but if you turn the things that they really were trying to teach us into ideology, then you miss that. You miss that they were really trying to teach us how to behave, you know, and how our body works, so that we can regulate ourselves. We could self-regulate, and instead of just flying off the hinge. And so all of the ideas and the stories that were being preached to us or being left for us were tethered to reality, physics, how the brain works, how the nervous system works, and infused in them was self-regulation techniques and habits and principles. And we got to get it back to that. We got to just remember, because we still remember. Like my friend Zach, he had an NDE as well, and he's an incredible human being that helped me ground and integrate a lot of this stuff. But he was we've been studying. He kind of helped me understand that understanding how the body works and the nervous system is in particular in the brain and the different structures. Um, it is important for us to understand this stuff, because we learn how to, if you've been diagnosed and you know which organs in the brain are impacted by that diagnosis, you can damn near query AI about how to downregulate or upregulate a particular region, or what path do I need to take, what habits do I need to employ into my life to engage certain parts of my brain that would compensate for the downregulation or damage in this other part of my brain. Like how the brain works, we've kind of worked a lot of it out since a long time ago. So with AI and with a diagnosis, you can learn habits. You can ask, what are the habits to counter this diagnosis? What are the habits? These are the things that I experience, and this is how it complicates my life. What habits can I engage that could totally undo that, or that could push me in a direction to where I'm doing that? And I'm learning this to engage AI in this way through suggest AI. Zach is the AI whisperer. He knows how to get AI to help you do anything and figure out anything, decode and ancient text, everything. But but that orientation and that approach is gives you access to the DSM-4 or 5, whatever it's at now, and ancient texts and ancient wisdom from scholars and ancient protocols and ancient ritualistic ways of engaging mental illness, and it engages it and it puts it all in the bullet by bullet, you know, presentation, so you can be like, okay, based upon what the scientists are saying, what the ancients are saying, and what the text, you know, are translating. This is how I can undo how I experience reality, or this is how I can correct how I'm seeing reality, which ultimately to me is no one or right or normal way of existing here. It all involves how you interact with others. No matter what you're diagnosed with, if you learn how to interact with others through principles, virtues, values, all of these things that we've been left, you know, then you can integrate and ground your experience in reality, no matter what the diagnosis is, because there is no normal. There's only a spectrum. There's only a spectrum. That's it. And we just need to learn our nervous system and our brain functions and stuff well enough to ground in wherever we land on that spectrum, and
Mm.
not allow that to be pathologized. You know, because at the end of the day, Elon Musk is on the spectrum. Look at, you know, all of these inventors and great thinkers. You know, Einstein was on the spectrum. Like all of these people, you know, they were likely on the spectrum, you know, because it allows a different type of focus on a particular
Mm.
topic, you know, because you're not distracted by the other brain functions, because one part of the brain may be more upregulated or downregulated, so you're able to just zero in on something. And the average person, or the average well-adjusted person, you know, their brain, every part of it is working, so their interests can be pulled to and fro. Their attention can be pulled to and fro pretty easily. But people on the spectrum, it's not as easy to pull their attention to and fro, and when you change the circumstances around them too quickly and abruptly, it's disruptive, you know. So it's not an issue of pathologizing. It's just learning how do you how to this person how to create an experience that optimizes their strengths, not highlights their differences and pathologizes those differences. So
Whew. Here we go. Here's a good one. So, are you not to call out the violence of fascism of MAGA?
yeah, well, I mean, these are all, I don't I internally I laugh at politics and stuff like that now, because it relies on othering, like violence and fascism. Like, for example, 80% of human beings in this country, and these are things that me and Zach talk about a lot, uh, are the same. They go to work, they pay bills, they want their children to graduate from college, or just have a productive life. Whatever they do, they want their children to graduate from high school and go have a productive life. Um, they want their children to be safe. That's white, black, Asian. It doesn't matter. You know, most people want that for their children, right? So if I want to talk about issues that are important, those are the most important issues that the 80% of human beings all can agree on. But to now turn this into let's find some things, let's frame them in a certain way, so that guarantees that certain groups are going to see it one way and another group is going to see it that way, when 80% of them really want to get, they want to be they want to be able to take care of their families, they want to be treated fairly, they want equality, you know, equality. They want it to be everybody get treated the same across the board, and let's move forward in a good direction. Like, this is not even that's not provocative assumptions, right? That's most people that you meet in your day-to-day life. But have the news tell it, uh, half of the world wants to murder the other half of the world. We don't live that. That's the polarization and the storytelling that we do. That's ideology. That's storytelling. That's trauma narrative, right? But if you live next, you wouldn't know. Like the guy, like I know, there's a guy. I speak to everybody, right? There's a guy who used to have a Confederate flag on his waving on his house or on his car, and he got rid of the car, but he got rid of the flag before he got rid of the car. So there might have been a change of heart, or somebody might have busted the window, however it happened, you know. But he speaks all this Republican rhetoric, but the old man across the street is an old black man, and he cuts his grass for him because the old man can't go out there and do it. So I don't care about all these polarizing words that we've invented, that we get force fed to talk about reality through, when there's a lot of other words we can talk about reality through, like the fact that regardless of what this man thinks in terms of this political game, he goes across the street and cuts his neighbor's grass that's black and is not a Republican. You know, our reality isn't filtered through these lenses that we're being handed, these stories that we're being told about reality. I go out and experience. I saw, this was when I was still angry. This was before my NDE, and this almost this made me think. And this was a memory that is etched in my soul. I was walking. I was going to Florida, um, going to Central Florida, where Trish's my son's mother, her family is from St. Petersburg. We were going there, or we might have been returning to Atlanta from there, and in this area that in that time, like I said, is my mind is like, oh, this is all redneck, 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 whatever. I'm judging and I'm accusing and pointing fingers, all this other stuff, and I'm angry. So, but I'm going to the door, and as I'm going to the door, there's a white guy approaching the door from another angle, and he's limping, and his knee is obviously busted, like absolutely busted, but he's rushing to get the door for me. And initially, my thought was, I hope he's not gonna say something crazy to me, or like thinking something negative. And he said, "Let me get that for you, brother." And I looked at him and I said, "Thank you, brother." But the way he looked at me was I felt it, like I felt it. And I'm not into propaganda, and I'm not trying to be some kumbaya, type of person, because I know ugly stuff happens in people's realities, right? But most of the time, if you go out and you are feeling good inside of yourself, and that's what you are putting out, uh, people, we're like 80%. We're all the same. Everybody want to get home at night and relax and go to sleep and go back and do it again, and get back at it again, being responsible and taking care of their family. And even some of the bad decisions that people make in their mind, they're making them out of a sense of responsibility. If I was responsible for 1 million people versus two, the decision making and the variables become a whole lot more different, a lot more different. So I can judge a politician the way that I did. I hated them all, and I can judge them all now. But I'm not making decisions for 320 plus million Americans. I'm not. So I don't know how to consider every variable and every opinion, in the country. And the system in and of itself that they're operating in isn't perfect. But if you care about the problems because you're living them, and you have a system that's presented to you on how to address it, how you feel about all of this can come. We can feel that way, but we have to learn how to shift things. We have to learn how to move things and do things here that down regulates the extremely triggered states that we operate in by feeling a way about something and not engaging it, not doing anything about it. I did that for long enough, and all it did was destroy organs. When I could have been doing stuff. I could have been fixing problems.
Woo, man. I love it, man. When when we just let you go, boy, you just
Yeah,
let
I
it.
know I be
I
rambling,
love
man.
it. No, no, no. It's good. It's good. It's good. I'm noticing a lot of your other interviews, like people interview and they want to know about certain things, right? When it comes to the NDE, but I'm like, I know there's some clarity and some other things that you probably had with you, and then of course it revealed. And I'm gonna pick one of these here from my cousin. This is my cousin Shayla. Y'all all say what's up to her. So how do we implement the spiritual awareness to this reality of our inner being as it interacts with humanity? How do we stop the reacting? Um,
I mean, and this is why I think that this is why I value my own NDE, is because the bulk of what I lived is the bulk of what my NDE showed me how to counteract. And I was automatic reacting to everything. I had philosophies. I was told I was a genius since I was a child, so I had a lot of words to explain and validate how I felt. So for me, once you have a bunch of ideas that you hold dear to you, they give you a script, an auto reply, auto reaction, auto, um, you know, just automatic response to anything, automatic reply to anything. And then also there's a level of expectation. I wrote one of my statuses on Facebook was basically like a lot. It was a lot, but the one of the thing I said was the reason why a lot of people have all these witty retorts and quick snippy responses to people is because they walk around with the expectation that they're going to be disrespected all day, and it just happens. So they already have the responses for it, you know. So we manifest and we create our reality with all of these orientations that we have. But the when I detach from the ideology, the narratives, the words, they all is just information, zeros and ones. That's all this is. The words and the explanations that we use to explain reality for me now is zeros and ones. I don't have to attach it to my nervous system, and because I don't, it's not automatically attached to my nervous system. I don't have automatic responses. And sometimes I do, and but I catch myself, and I'll say, that was an automatic response, and I grade my behavior. Like I was telling my son's mother today, I grade our interactions now. When I didn't do that before, I can see when I reacted, and that was a better option. And I can say I made an F today, and tomorrow I'm going to make an A. I'm shooting for an A. I'm not going to have that automatic response anymore. But the one thing that I'm very aware of now, and I spend a great deal of bandwidth maintaining, is that how I want to feel is up to me inside of my body. How I want to feel is up to me inside of my body. And if I keep my attention on maintaining a state that allows me to be receptive to any idea, even if it's a violent idea, I'm receptive and I know how to respond to it in a very effective and appropriate way because my nervous system is like this most of the time because I choose for it to be that way. And it's the same thing with responding to somebody, and with anger or hate is you grant yourself the love and consideration that your body deserves to not always be triggered, to not always have auto responses, to allow yourself to truly communicate gracefully with another person, even if they have an idea that's different than yours, to not be ready to fight just because somebody says some words that ultimately are just zeros and ones and that you've allowed to be attached to your nervous system. Just, you don't have to respond to anything that exists here. We choose to, and that's it. And in not choosing to react is not negating that there should probably be a response. And that's when people say uh, that I'm bypassing or I'm ignoring suffering. No, no, I'm trying to calm this machine that my infinitely knowledgeable awareness resides in so that this machine doesn't distract it from being able to see solutions, to be able to understand how to fix the problems. But if I'm in a triggered state because I feel some kind of way about this reality, my nervous system has bias. My nervous system has a lens that will not allow me to see reality in its purity. And I'm not able to access those answers with the clarity. But we suffer here. We hear it, and so that gives us like a deep integration with this place, right? But it integrates us in a negative way or with a slant. And but if we detach the nervous system from that experience, slant goes away. You look at the experience for me now, it's a very non-attached way. What happens here, I can grade my days. I can grade it. It was a good day. It was a bad day, and it's based upon my performance and how I engage with others. It's not based upon some nervous system responses. It's just not. Your internal world is yours. How you think and feel inside of you that's for you. How you grade it in this reality is how others see you, and you can't tell them that you're good and you go out and you trigger people all day, even if you feel convicted and justified in what you're doing and saying to people. If everywhere you go there's a wake of trauma, a wake of triggered nervous systems, that's not good behavior, you know. And that's the gauge of to me, my grading, my own behavior. I don't invoke or accuse or point fingers at others. How did I respond to the trigger that apparently or perceptually is outside of me, but it's really just me interacting with myself? How am I grading? How am I responding to this versus having these automatic reactions? You know. Um,
This is beautiful, brother. I mean, you getting there's the interaction and where people are loving it. This was a good one here. Where you greeted by the loved ones on the other side. I think you kind of told me a little bit about that. Like what persons or people did you experience?
No one. I didn't experience anybody else. It was space, oneness with everything. And then I didn't have any experience of absence or missing anything or anybody. Shortly after I was in space, I didn't even remember being a human being anymore. But there still wasn't any feelings of absence or missing. I think I think that the life review is like almost like the final opportunity to kind of detach from the things that you um that's stuck that's stuck to your psyche or your mind body ego complex, or however you want to define it. But these things stick, and these are the things that I think we navigate as we leave here. But I don't know, I just think that our attention, ultimately, in my opinion, creates what we do here and what we do as we leave here, what we see and experience as we leave here. So it's best to just, in my opinion, you know get some attention refinement, like like learn how to reel our attention in, and not allow it to be pulled to and fro, because that's our creative medium. So we shouldn't allow it to be pulled to and fro. If you can't do something about Gaza, 70-80% of your creative capacity shouldn't be used, feeling about something about Gaza. If there's an action you can take here that can mobilize funds and resources, or gifts to people that need them, or medicine, do something, because then your nervous system gets a dopamine reward, and you don't have to stay in a negative state. And then you might even come up with another idea that is expanded, because you've allowed your nervous system to flatten. And you consider I consider Gaza without the passion, the anger, the rage. Now you're considering it with responsibility and hope. So now you can fix it. But with anger and fear, it's hard to fix anything. That's not how our nervous system works. And the better we learn this machine, the better we learn how to engage these problems, and not just point fingers at others. And, oh, yeah, I'm not going to talk to him, or I hate him because he's a Democrat, or I'm not going to talk to him, I hate him because he's a Republican. That's not how to fix problems. You can't other people instantly and think you're going to fix any problems. Othering is violent.
Hmm.
you know
Mm, the is that othering it? I think that, and you talk about the attention, is that's just something that we pick up while we're here. Is there because it's like there's so much tension and everything that's going on in the world, but then the true self, right? That oneness, like being able to pull that out or see that, right? I mean, I think it is a it can seem as a task, but being able to pull away, I think that's the whole goal to me, sir, Mr. David, with what I do here is so that we can find our place to actually mobilize, to actually do something. A lot of people have been hurt in various different ways, especially spiritually, and now it's a matter of mobilization. Uh, so, um, you know, let's see. Um, let's see here. What we
some
gonna do? If you need to do that, you can go do that. All right. We're gonna take a break real quick. And what we want to do is, he said, I gotta go to use the restroom real bad. Oh my gosh. So for all y'all that are just tapping in and tuning in, I just want to show you real quick that, because I want to be able to bless
There
you.
was no tunnel. There was no.
This was his actual. This is a video, and this is a good video. I'll go ahead and repost it on in case you want to go watch it. It's on YouTube for those who are on Facebook and YouTube. There we go. Make sure I post it. But he had a near-death experience, and meaning basically they call these NDEs. And within an NDE, a lot of times you do die. I mean, you do die, and then you have an experience to tell the story. Some people tell the story that is pretty vague. Most people, I showed a video. So if you get a chance, go back and watch the beginning of it if you missed, because a lot of people have this very similar story. and they see the light. And some people, Miss Dolores, I've seen that you had something on there about seeing other people, seeing your loved ones. Some people get to that moment or that point. There is a thing that David did say that he experienced trying to communicate with the lady that was in the room that was really sad because they were resuscitating him and doing, they had the pads. So they were resuscitating him. And he actually, whenever he came back into his body, they had the pads and he looked up and he could see where they had resuscitated him. So this is a very, very unique experience. Yes, sir. That probably feels real good.
I had a thought when I stepped away, because sometimes I hear myself speaking and it sounds like I might be speaking about feelings as if they don't have value, right? Feelings are supposed to inform action. They're not supposed to become states that we stay in. You know, feelings are information. It's powerful nervous system information. It's powerful body information. It's powerful organ information. It's powerful information that these feelings are. But if we allow our mind to be taken by this information versus us translating it and turning it into an action or a thought that leads us towards an action that counters, if it's a bad feeling, that counters that bad feeling. If it's a good feeling, that reinforces that good feeling. That's my only thing with feeling. It's because I killed myself with feelings and passion. You know, but if I would have used that information, which was extreme as an empath, to inform action, good actions towards solutions, um, that would have been a better use of that information. You know what I'm saying? Versus allowing it to just trigger my body and my organs and my nervous system to the point where I rendered myself uh, ineffective, unable to use this body because I allowed the feelings to not inform action. I allowed them to destroy or overstimulate my body and nervous system and mind.
Beautiful. What would you say from a deep heart perspective, like in this action, what we're doing today? I think Ruben had actually even sort of lead it to this somewhat. This is involved where he says, "What would like to know what encouraged you to share your NDE and how it has to help listeners." Right?
Yeah, I had to. It was there. I didn't. I'm a black man. I didn't really. Now it's a newer paradigm where we are actually starting to seek out therapy and help. But
Yeah.
I wasn't going to therapy or anything like that. I didn't think I needed it. What you get when you're in the country, you need the Bible. You need Jesus.
Yeah.
You don't need therapy. Get sit down with some old person, get some advice, and you generally feel good enough to go back and fight another day.
Well, this is, you
Yeah.
got to watch some previous episodes. Miss Dorothy is amazing because this month is mental health month, right? Awareness. And so um, I was looking for conversations this month to have to actually speak on or talk about, to think about our mental health and what does that look like? What does that mean? And so, and I believe, especially when we have a lot of people that come from religious backgrounds, and sometimes you can have this idea that you don't want to break away, or you trying to break away, or it's like you stuck in that, or sometimes
Yeah.
mind could be stuck into that, and you feeling you feeling like God is going to chastise you or going to come against you because you left that system. So there's a lot of mental religious trauma is what we would
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
about. And I think I talked to you about a guy named Caesar who does Black religious trauma.
Yeah. I started watching that video earlier. It's good information.
It
Yeah.
is. It's
Yeah.
yeah. It's
I
good.
got my notes are sitting right here from
It's good,
from
right?
watching it. Yeah.
It
But
what people experience.
yeah. Yeah, but that Ruben, I think that was I went to Clubhouse, the app Clubhouse, And I just started talking about it because I was moving in a good direction in terms of feeling a bit more hopeful. I was working a job and I was doing well. I got unofficially offered the job, and then the day that I was supposed to go from contracted to permanent, the policy changed from corporate overseas, and they didn't want to hire. They weren't going to hire any contractor for that role. And then I went right back into depression, and it was a deeper depression because now I had this memory of this place that I preferred to be, you know. So it was like this world is still letting me down. I'd rather just go back there, and so it got to a point where it was just bad, and I thought I was losing my mind. I was considering all of the things that skeptics consider. Maybe it was hallucination. Maybe it was drugs. You know, maybe they gave me some drugs when I came in, and they were bringing me back, and maybe it was some interaction with these drugs. Maybe it was maybe I'm crazy. You know, and so all of these things I was considering and trying to ground and integrate what I had experienced, and I just said I'm going to share it. I was on club. The app had just came out. People were talking about it a lot. Somebody sent me an invite. A friend of mine, an ethnomusicologist, Dr. Hadley, Fredera Hadley, sent me an invite, and I just listened for the most part. I didn't even use it for the first month or so, and then I got on, and I was jumping in a bunch of different spirituality rooms. And I think I might have heard somebody mention having a near-death experience. And no, I didn't. They were just talking about people were talking about out-of-body experiences and psychedelic experiences. And then I shared my near-death experience, and other people started sharing theirs. And I realized that, oh, this is a thing. I didn't even. Somebody said, "Oh, you had a near-death experience." For 3.5 years, I never even used the phrase near-death experience to describe what happened to me. So that was the beginning of me Googling and reading. And the funny part about it is, like I said, I have 4,000 or 5,000 books. Some of them talk about near-death experiences, but I never took that seriously because I was cynical about the religious, bias in these experiences, and I was cynical about that. So I was like, these are just, people coming back and saying and validating their beliefs. That, so it's not that they saw these things, is that they're going. This is how they're going to use. This is the language that they're going to use to talk about it when they come back. So it's like it's just validating their beliefs. So I didn't really center near-death experiences. I didn't take them very seriously until it happened to me,
Oh,
and yeah. So the integration process for me was hard. It was real hard because I didn't have an accepted framework for them. I hadn't accepted them as I hadn't seen any videos on NDEs growing up, or even leading up to my experience, because it wasn't a focus for my attention. I didn't really, it wasn't a part of my experience until it happened to me, and then and once it did, it was just like I said, it was just difficult. And then coming back here and still not liking life. Well, I had a hell of a experience with death, so I would prefer to go back there.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
So
yeah. I would say, they're getting closer because looking at the brain, but and just like I think we talked about it where people we've seen it time and time again where people would have your ayahuasca and psilocybin, and the thing is a lot of that stuff, especially your psilocybin, is actually being used for research. It's actually being used to get people, clinically to a certain space or point outside of an NDE. You don't
yeah.
want to start actually doing NDEs on purpose to people. But it's like, what can we experience, or what do we go through? What can happen to us to actually help us get through? That's where, for me, understanding not just mindfulness within meditation, but going into deeper levels of meditation. Right? There's some, you just being mindful and doing the lighter work of it, but then actually doing the deep work. And the deep work is you're probably doing it every day, and you're paying attention to your life. You're paying attention to what you eat. You're paying attention to what you take in. You're paying attention to what you're eating, and it's just you're preparing yourself. Going back to that sacredness that you speak of, right? Um, there's a sacredness in life that we don't. It's almost like it, it's almost like we lost it because of what happened to us,
Yeah.
within churches, right? Churches is like we had a sacredness, and I'm talking about thousands of years, ago, and then it moves into, colonization and Western Christianity versus the Eastern side, where you have certain symbolic things, and now we're using it. Um, there's a hierarchy system in the Western Christian space where we're using it as government and so on and so forth. But I still believe that there was something special in what I experienced and what we all experience in this life, but it's just a matter of being able to slow down, being able to ask the questions, being able to, I mean, everything that you're integrating and everything you're talking about, brother, is being able to, and I know you have some, it's like you already had gifts, and then now your gifts are just enhanced.
Yeah.
And you just have to have, I mean, honestly, it's like as we do the work, I've had some crazy, I mean, like literally crazy miracles, and things that happen where you be like, how in the world did that happen? Um, and so I appreciate you for your time, bro, and appreciate you for coming to be a part of this and a part of us. I mean, I've seen a lot of different videos and things that you were, being connected to, and I'm here to tell you that this community is we're pretty tight. um, and there's quite a few. Um, there was a Miss Dolores Lyons. She's from Detroit.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, she's from Detroit. Some
Yeah.
people, go ahead.
Oh, well, I'll read it. Some people become clairaudient, etc. after an NDE. Do you think you are in any kind of way, David? Um, I
Yes.
was, I was when I was a child, and I asked God to take it away from me because it was too much. It was too much. Shortly after my NDE, I noticed that it was back, like, well, it never went away even when I prayed for it to go away. I ignored the extra information. It's almost like I experienced things that other people experience, like in terms of like the conversation, seeing the colors that they're wearing, seeing how they look and all that. But then there's always just another stream of information. And then I just started ignoring that stream of information in my normal and trying to be normal. And but after the NDE, it was like the information was loud and extremely loud, and it was torturous. And the way that
Mm,
in human design, I'm a reflector. So the way that I realized that the easiest way for me to handle being an empath is to not hold on to anything, is to not have an orientation towards
dang it.
these ideas. Is so that if I hear any idea, I can just integrate it. I can absorb everything that you got because ain't nothing in there, and I can let it go when I want to because I'm not attached to these ideas. It's your story, and but I could use your energy and information to trigger my memories and trigger my nervous system in a similar way that you triggered, and I can respond authentically, feeling what you're feeling, and even access, it seems, the void where you are as well, and hear what you have to say to yourself. And it's useful information. It's not my information. I never know what I'm going to say to a person, so there may be some kind of clairaudience involved in that. But it's just I'm listening. I'm listening to the information that has always been there. It's just louder now, I'm not triggered by it or disturbed or annoyed by it because I have space for it now.
Hmm. So whenever you get, so to be able to truly embrace it, and when you get hit with things now, do you just usually, of course, keep quiet and just deal? I mean, because I'm pretty sure you can go and you can go and be around people and start feeling and getting downloads. You could feel, you could.
Yeah, my coworkers, you know, they do whatever they can to work from home. So they usually come to the office like 2 days a week. scheduled, and usually one of those 2 days in actuality. So, and I come to work every day. I have one day that they argued to get me to work from home. But I'll come to work even on that day that I have scheduled to work from home. I worked from home yesterday, but I feel like for me, reality now is the internet, is a fantasy land where I can go interact with other gods and goddesses and feel their energy and learn things and absorb information from them and learn how to gracefully interact with different personalities and try on different avatars and personalities and energies to learn how to most effectively move through this life versus assuming myself to be this guy that has to be defended, this personality that has to be defended and upheld, and who is me? Who am I betraying if I try on a different personality? It's me, you know. So I enjoy going out into the world now and catching the train to work, and it's like hopping into a story and interacting with the other gods and goddesses and players in this realm and learning from them and having beautiful conversations with strangers and hearing stories of their entire life. People tell me from North Springs to College Park, I can hear somebody's entire life. From Sandy Springs to College Park, their whole life story gets revealed to me, oftentimes. And so for me, I just learn by going. And the people that I work with, most of them are young people fresh out of college that are hopeful still, that have high energy, and I just give them advice and I like to talk to them. I like to feel that hopeful energy, and it's I don't have to stay at home. Staying at home minimizes the variables that I get to interact with in a given day, and integrating and interacting with this reality now is beautiful to me. Now I do have to come home and sometimes I stay up extremely late just to enjoy the solitude because I have to downregulate and flatten my nervous system back out or just clear my energy up. A lot. You know, and I prefer to be in a state in a state that I've stayed in since I was a child, where it's like my world and it's inside of me and it's beautiful and I can be there and totally disconnected from this. It's like rejuvenating to be in that place, and I stay there most of the time. And if I can come home and go back to that space, that's generally a place where that allows me to go out in the world and interact with anything, any energy, high, low, whatever, because I rejuvenate every day and all the time. Even if there's no interaction happening, I'm back in that space. Uh, you know, my default network, my default mode network, and
Yeah, yeah, you integrating those some psychology, right? Yeah, we don't
yeah.
understand those, but those things are being used every day, and we can use those things. Heck, the
Everybody
whole
does it. Everybody does
social,
it subconsciously. Yeah.
yeah, social media is built up on understanding uh, the functions of the behavioral functions of the brain and the actual systematic functions of the brain. That's the reason why that you're looking for the pleasure and the reward and so on and so forth. And being a neurodiverse person, I have to manage or monitor that within my own life intensely,
Yes.
um,
Yeah.
because really a lot of success, material success, comes down to focus and how hard you can focus. Life success comes down to how much you can focus on that thing and take
Yeah.
care of that thing. um Man, I appreciate it. We have, of course, how can I flatten? Let's go ahead and answer that real
It's
quick.
this is simple, and these are things like I said. A lot of the times we engage very profound, ancient principles and practices as we are flattening our nervous systems. Like you see some people do stuff with their hands, and they're touching pressure points that coincide with different uh, you know, parts of our nervous system that flattens our nervous system. It calms you. Some of it engages your vagus nerve. I mean, there are things that we do without even knowing that we're doing it. Like uh, one thing I did when I came out of from my NDE is I was asking a bunch of questions about my childhood to my mother. Like, is there anything that happened to me when I was a baby that I wouldn't remember? You know, um, the way that I look at that now is that I was trying to get back to my default network, my default mode, network. And that is your natural state where you flatten without consciously doing it. It's just where you daydream and you go to this place, and your nervous system, you detach from this realm so to a certain degree, and your nervous system flattens, but your brain activity actually increases. There's nothing happening on the outside, but your brain activity increases. That is a meditative state. And that's what when they measure brain activity of gurus and shamans, and they're in this it's the same thing that you're accessing when you go to that your default mode, So we all do these things. We all, in some subconscious way, breathing, deep breathing, sighing. You know, we all do these things to flatten our nervous system. Some people sigh when they get asked a stressful question, because that allows you a moment to where you might be able to access rationale and logic. If you can get out of a triggered state, it helps you move towards getting out of a triggered state just by sighing, breathing deeply. So it's just flattening the nervous system is simply being deeply aware of your state changes as you go through life, and as you walk into a room. If you feel your heart rate increase, if your breathing is shortened, it's just being aware of it and correcting it. That's it. And that's, for me, flattening your nervous system is not allowing your body to be triggered without your knowing. If something changes, make note of it and counter it. And that's that. Whatever you do to counter that automatic trying to triggered state is flattening your nervous system.
I got an idea, and I do this with all my people before I end, and that is I usually let my guests speak to us, and it's almost like a prayer, but it's almost like a meditation. And whatever comes to you, telling us to breathe, and whatever comes to you to actually allow us to get into a moment of being able to do that all together. I believe there's a synchronicity when you have people all in one accord doing it at the same time, of what can happen in that expansion and awareness. And so, especially with your voice, you have a dynamic, amazing, sound that I believe is godlike in my in my movie brain. You know what I mean? If you ever heard it,
I
it was
appreciate it.
so.
Yeah.
So what I mean, just getting us to a state and just being able to, just no different than if you were to talk to yourself,
Mhm.
And I'm not sure if you ever done anything like that.
Yeah, I do.
So
Yeah.
watch this here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start this up, and everybody, we could just sit here and we can take a breath, deep breath in your nose, hold it a bit, and we're gonna release it. We're going to allow ourselves we're going to flatten our nervous system. We're going to get ourselves to a meditative state, and we're going to allow Brother David here to just speak to us. Go for it, brother.
Most important thing, I think, that the orientation shift, the pivot. I think whether you have out of body experiences, or whether you have spiritual experiences through psychedelics, or whether you have an NDE, the opportunity is in the pivot. It's in the change. It's in being able to see what state you were in prior to the experience, and what states you now have access to, or what information you now have access to that could potentially move you to another state. And then you have a whole different experience, and the previous state becomes something you're not attached to anymore, because you're not in that state. So the opportunity in these life-changing, these transformative, these spiritual experiences, OBEs, NDEs, psychedelic, all of them, is grants you a perspective to see yourself outside of yourself. You get to see yourself as a thing in the universe, the same way that we experience others in the universe, and that allows you truly to just have a different perspective. That the word that critical is not what I'm shooting for, but it's a word that just allows you to have an objective perspective of yourself that is open and that is connected with the system, because you see yourself when you're outside of your body as a part of this system. So when you get that perspective, it's just a higher perspective to see reality through. And if you see reality as a piece of reality versus as something in it that has this some duty that's higher than any other piece of reality, it becomes a stressful experience for you. This is a shared experience. This is a team event. No one of us is more important than any other of us. All of our experiences are valid. All of our experiences are important, and all of them will be integrated back into the system so that we all have your example to understand, to refer to, moving forward in this experience, in this realm, in this system. So we have to, in my opinion, truly get that. Like, we have to get that. Moving forward in this experience is about hope and responsibility, not fear and anxiety. And how we treat each other is ultimately what keeps the system healthy and ensures its perpetuity, ensures that it remains here for us to have experiences in, whatever they are, you know.
Yes. Being able to sit with that. Thank you, man. Just being able to sit with the fact that your experience is your experience, but whether it's NDE or whether it's whatever experience you have, is that experience so that you can, right? That's a level of consciousness.
Yeah. Whatever we experience is my friend Zach. Like I said, I'm always going to refer to him because he's become like I talk to him every day. He's my BFF after the NDE, you know. But his daughter is amazing, amazing, highly advanced soul. Kylie, he was telling me about some slang that her and her friends use, and so like if one of them presented an idea to the others and said, let's go do this something, and one of them was kind of resistant, and the response that, like, man, we're gonna go do it, just do it for the plot, do it for the plot. Right? That's so beautiful to me, and that's so mystical. That's so mystical because for me, after having that experience, this realm is just, it is what it is. It's beautiful, it's amazing, it's vast. There's no way for me to understand it all, right? But there are some things that I'm gonna do here just for the plot, you know. And in my mind, I see a beautiful plot. It's a beautiful story, and I see the end of it. And what I saw after my NDE is this city that is completed somewhere, I don't know. But this city requires global cooperation. It requires it assumes that we wake up and we get it, you know, because it's beautiful, and and I know that we're gonna all do it for the plot at some point once we start remembering how to behave.
Well, you know, brother, the hope, the hope that I have, and not even just the hope, the responsibility and duty that I feel like I have on this planet is, after everything that I have experienced and everything I feel like I have escaped, all the trauma that we know that is there and the triggers, now it's a matter of learning and being able to go back into my own life and being able to use some of the experiences and being able to say, you know what, maybe there's a point to this, right? I see you on there and you're with those people, and it gives us a moment, and I'm like, I can link up with him. And then I see Caesar, and it's like, I can link up with him. And then I have other people that I may link up with, or it may be just me speaking myself about some specific on a topic. And so the tools and the resources and the experiences that we have, that's the importance to me of you telling your story. Because you telling your story from your perspective definitely can connect to other people that may be experiencing the planet just as you may be experiencing it. Of course, everybody can feel it, but it can have a different experience from a black man to a black man, and they hear that, and then it's when it comes to therapy and when it comes to like checking yourself and being triggered and looking at trauma and then monitoring or seeing or feeling your thoughts and then changing your thoughts. Like, how do we do that? Things of that nature. And so we will be forever connected. I love you, man, for real, for real. And
Love
right
you too,
there,
brother.
there's this Cash App. I'm about to start it. I'm about to fire it up myself, because we can sit back here and we can talk about everything we want to do, but like, I want to put some action together. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I want to bless him with this currency that we work with. So I'm going to kick it off. I'm going to kick it off, and let's see there. Yes, sir. All right, there we go. I'm going to kick it off. We're going to bless you. Everyone bless him however you can, just because of the fact that I love this story. I love the fact that he's willing to go out there with the experience. Okay. You can, and that's his Cash App on there. You don't have to send it to me, but thank you, Miss Shayla. I will go ahead and boom, we'll go ahead and send that additional. Yes. Go ahead and send that to him, because we'll definitely have you back, and you are now a part of this expanded conscious community, right?
I'm honored to be. I just wrote in the chat, like, I really enjoyed this conversation. You and your intention was this. Even before the interview, we spoke about this. You allowing the conversation to be about the pivot, about the change, about the habits, the actions, the things that we need to do, moving forward. Like, because I don't even trust my feelings anymore. They killed me. You understand what I'm saying? But I do trust this vessel. I trust the gift, that it has allowed me to just have this experience and to think and to understand, and I trust my ability to come to some solutions. I do, but I don't have to kill my body to come to solutions. I don't have to trigger myself and to do that. And I just want to keep pivoting. Exactly, Shayla. I just want to keep pivoting and growing and learning and grounding this understanding so that I can share it. Because if I was speaking the language that in the symbol, the analogical language that I sometimes get this information in, nobody would get what I'm saying. So I have to understand what I'm hearing and feeling, and be able to articulate it, not just to sit and feel these things and hear this stuff without grounding it, and this feedback, this exchange, this confirmation, affirmation is what makes me trust myself more. It makes me feel more compelled to do this, because my personality is not I was reclusive, so I feel like I'm doing the right things because it feels good, and I'm going to keep doing it. And so thank you all.
It's the beginning. It's the beginning, because you have been gifted with something that you can't imagine. And the thing is people talk about gurus, even though we don't want to have them, or we don't want to speak of it, or a lot of times we push away. And essentially, I'm not talking about a person that, when I say guru, I'm not talking about someone that's better than someone.
Yeah.
I'm really talking about like a person that may have insight, a person that may have a different experience. And we can use that as a blanket term. But I do believe that people have gifts of being able to speak. People have gifts of being able to write. People have gifts of being able to be front and in public, because not everyone is called to do that. And so sometimes when you speak, it can vibrate an energy. I'm just broadcasting a signal. And that energy that's been broadcasted can be received by an individual, and that can actually help their soul, that can help their life, and it can cause them, right? You went through that NDE so that you can have this moment, because you are already called and gifted to bring forth, right, this trueness and this essence, right, that we may call or venture out to say something like God because of history. But we here to know there's a oneness, there's a trueness, there's an appointment for times, as you would talk about the sacredness of what we had, and the prophets and the mystics and those that were in the past we still have that calling on those gifts. And I believe that you have that calling, you have that gift, and we're here with you. He is on Facebook as David Williamson, and so we want to hold him accountable, that he gonna like and share, and whenever he gets his downloads, that he goes ahead and let it rip on his social medias, and that we can support him in every way, especially when it comes to doing this, supporting him in the sense of being able to like his posts when you get some downloads, being able to share, share your stuff. So we are here to support the edification, if you will, of this divine energy, right? We have it in the other spaces, the other spiritual spaces, they call them church. I'm here to say that this is our own, right? This is our own, and we appreciate you. Hopefully, you got some Cash App rolling in there, so we could you could do what you want with it, but make sure you are investing in yourself and into your ability to share, brother, because it just rolls off normal for you. But if you go back and look at some of these comments, and I don't have, like, in my community, I don't have beginners.
Yeah. No, I could tell the vibe is real high in here.
I don't have beginners. This is Miss Dorothy. Look.
Oh yeah.
How to get spiritually no, this was a couple last week, Chadwick and the Imagination Code. They're out of they were in Atlanta, now they're in St. Louis, I believe. Deep dialogues. This is Miss Dorothy, right? How to get spiritually unstuck.
Oh, that's good stuff.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's some people, Miss Dolores, she's worked with various she's worked with Marianne Williamson to lots of different people. You know what I mean? And a lot of these people followed Bishop Carlton, and some of them followed me.
Yeah.
And so,
well, y'all gotta plug me into y'all network. Let me, hook me up, because I'm just a country boy from Yanceyville, North Carolina. I don't know nobody.
Well, we here to support you, brother, and I'm here 8:30 Thursdays, and pretty much I'll tell you, there's still 30-ish people between both, and we're family, for sure.
Indeed.
I appreciate you guys. You guys have a wonderful evening. There's Mr. Christopher.
Thank you. I feel a part of the family. Thank y'all. I really appreciate the warmth from all of the comments, from everybody who attended and asked questions, and just reading the comments. It's I don't know. Like every time any comment that I read, sometimes it's just surreal. Like I said, I didn't. I had no hope. I lost hope, and once I lost hope in myself, and I got sick, and I left here. So these comments, it gives me hope. It reaffirms, it reinvigorates the hope that I've now that I seem to be functioning with and operating in, and it's just beautiful. It's beautiful. I think I told you I've been happy for like 5 months straight, and it's like, it's a new thing. I'm learning new habits to stay happy, and I love it. So I'm going to keep this state going. I'm going to do this.
Wow, look at there.
Yeah.
Miss Dolores.
Wow. Wow. Hey, hey, we family then.
Shayla said my pineal gland just opened. And Ruben said, "Thank you, David. Appreciate you." Rich,
Thank
powerful,
you all.
providing spiritual nuggets. Right. In of Miss Marie all the way
Adding to the
from
plot.
Nashville.
Yeah.
We're gonna add it to the plot. All right.
There we
All
go.
right.
We adding to the plot.
We appreciate y'all. And brother, you can hang tight. I'll go ahead and get this ended. And guess what? We'll be back next week, Thursday, 8:30. Y'all have a good one.
Peace.